Hello, Helen. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me on, Asura.
I understand you're an international author, and can you tell more about the book and how did you even get to writing the book?
Sure. So I'm the author of Nothing Sexier Than Freedom. Hopefully it doesn't blur out. Boom, there it is. I wrote Nothing Sexier Than Freedom back in 2013. It took me 5 years and 5 years, 5 editors to complete the book.
Wow.
Normally it doesn't take that long. So if you're writing out there, trust me, it doesn't take that long.
Why did it take you that long? Do you know?
Sure. It took me the longest because I was really resistant to it. I never was like, oh, I want to be an author or, oh, I want to write a book for the world to see. I really just started doing it because I wanted to remember all my crazy times in my youth. And early dementia runs in our family. So I wanted something to remind me of my crazy times. If something were to happen to me or my family, I could have stories read back to me. So it took me a long time because, I was resistant. I was also traveling a lot. And every single time I landed somewhere new, I had to find a new editor because it was just, I wanted to work with an editor I had met in person and knew who they were and who was working on it, or something would happen with my editor and our times were conflicting. So it was just something like that. It was really rocky the whole 5 years until I met my last editor. My last editor, Virginia, was amazing, still is amazing. We still keep in touch to this day.
And what is the book about?
So the book is about
I understand
me.
it's your stories, and at least from what I read, because I didn't get a chance to actually listen to the book or read a book before this conversation. But what really stood out for me was the freedom piece.
Yeah. So it's a creative nonfiction. What that means versus like a nonfiction is it's creative. So it's got a lot of maybe magical stories in it, or it's dramatized a little bit more, or some of the names and places have been changed, to protect those who think they're innocent. But what's really cool is that, I didn't know how to finish the book off. So before the chapter of my brother, the very last chapter, I decided to end it with where I foresaw my life, which is crazy because all of that has now come to pass. I've already lived that life. It's wild. It's kind of like if you write it, it will happen. And it did. And it happened in different ways, like a different state versus, the places and people, but it all came into fruition. It all came true. And the book is about my life and the journey I take and facing one of my biggest demons. I was a notorious cheater for so many years and I didn't know why. I didn't know, it was a part of me. It was a part of my life. It's a part, I felt nothing. It was almost like I was a little bit, I had a little bit of narcissistic tendencies where I didn't feel anything if I cheated. There was nothing wrong with it. I didn't see a problem with it. I saw a problem if somebody else did it to me.
Yeah.
But really, along the path of being a notorious cheater, you learn about other different styles of cheating, other cheaters out there. So it's actually a really rocky subject, but it's interesting how I've come out of it and what it took for me to get out of it. And
I was about to
the
ask you
book
about
is
that.
really trailing that journey of everything I've learned from my youth all the way to getting past that hump to dealing with grief and loss. And it's almost like life. No, it is life being my biggest teacher in the book and teach me over and over and over again. Like, you think you're tough. You think you can defeat this. You think you're bigger than me. I'm going to show you who's boss until you realize how to live a good and healthy life for yourself. Because that's what life, God, universe, source, really wants for each of us.
have you found a way how you can notice when, let's say, life is teaching you? Because a lot of times we just go and hit our head against the wall until we learn the lesson. But maybe have you noticed any ways how you can start to see that lesson earlier?
It's a good question. You know, we all have signs around us. It's incredibly wild how we're all interconnected and how most of us are just sleepwalking. We're sleepwalking on a day-to-day basis on what's happening in our life. You can have the best life and you can have the worst life, but you're still connected. And that ripple effect is tremendous if we just paid attention to the vibrations, the frequencies, and the energies around us. And those are really the signs. The signs are so small yet so big that unless we actually, I really believe this is why meditation is so profound in everybody's life, why there's so much science and research done on it, because that meditative state, you know, the quiet state, the stillness state, and another word for that is observation, being able to be in a state of observing everything around you awakens your senses to so many things, so many signs where you can start knowing, oh, okay, if I go through door number 1, this could be the possibility, the result behind it. If I go through door number 2, this could be the possibility behind it, you know, but you don't get that chance if your life is on a fast track or a fast pace, if you're so distracted by everybody around you, because you're just going through doors and you're being hit with all of these results you don't want. And then you're blaming everybody else around you when really you're the one who went through that door so fast, you know?
Okay, so you mentioned sleepwalking and that's something that I completely agree. And when you said it, I was like, this is such a good way to put it. Is there a way how to start waking up or even become aware that you're sleepwalking? Because I think a lot of times people are so much into this sleepwalking stage that you're not even aware that you're in this stage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware sometimes, you know? So I think it's all perspective, really. It's changing. No, it's choosing to change in different moments in your life. You know, today I rolled out of bed and I could have been like, oh my gosh, I just want to lay here like for a longer time, you know? And I thought to myself, no, you made a commitment earlier this week. You're going to be more hyped up every day, you know? So it's like saying to yourself, like, I'm with you and we're going to do this. This is what we're going to do today. And I like to call it momming yourself or adulting yourself, you know, because it's really like this. You got to really think about your patterns. Like your patterns are all instilled from you. It's a blueprint you were born with, you were raised with, and now you're conditioned to have. So there's this voice inside your head, in each of our heads, right? Like when you shut your eyes and you close your mouth and you start talking, there's something like, who is that? Right?
Yeah.
That's that higher consciousness saying, okay, this is what I'm observing. This is what I'm seeing. And this is what the game is laid out today. How do you want to play it? You know, in my book, I write how different people say what their mantra is about life. Life is a gift. Life is a blessing. To me, I wrote, life is a game. I've seen this and observed this, that my life is really a game. Like somebody put me in this and in my mom's stomach. And I was born into this wild, crazy, ferocious game. It's ferocious. I mean, really, there's that saying, only the strong survive. And I don't care what everybody says, how they interpret it. But really, if you look at the animal kingdom, the strong survive. Like you've got to say to yourself, I'm going to win this game today. Today, this is the game laid out in front of me. I'm going to do this. And when you decide to play the game, when you decide to win the game, when you decide that this game is like the ultimate experience, you start waking up to what's going to help you win the game. What's going to help you win the game? That's where observing comes in. That's where all these meditative stuff comes in. That's where these tools come in of self-development, self-improvement, because now you're like, I'm in it to win it. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's a competitive edge to all of us. And when that competitive edge wakes up, then we are motivated. Then we are inspired. Then we're searching out what's going to help us win. Does that make sense?
I love it. Oh yeah. And this is so interesting that you mentioned this, because I view it exactly the same way. And I keep saying, like, this is a game. And even as you were speaking, I was thinking that a lot of times when we face challenges, they seem hard. But if you have this, in a way, playful mind about it, you start to see it as, oh, this is just part of the game. I overcome this and I get to the next level. So now you start to see it more playful, where it's not about, oh my gosh, I have this hard thing ahead of me, but you start to think that, oh, this is my way to the next level. And you start to kind of have more fun as you go through these challenges.
Yeah. Have you ever like realized how people say to themselves, or that your friends will tell you, I don't know why I'm back at square one, or how did I go backwards? Or, oh my God, I feel like I'm starting over again.
Oh yeah.
Why do you think you didn't pass that level? You didn't win that part of the game.
Yeah.
You got put back. You got a Mario, you know, and a Luigi, another life. You know, so crazy how the answers are all around us.
Yeah.
They're all in front of us. They're inside of us. Yet we're still like, I don't know why. Yeah. No, you do know why. You do, honey. You're smarter than you think. Like, you're don't say you don't know why. Start saying, I do know why. It's just really hard to face. And that's okay. It's okay if it's hard.
And even as you said that, let's say you failed this level and you're back at square one, you actually are not, because you have done this at least once. So now you at least have an idea what's coming. So it's not like you actually start from the very beginning. You actually have had these experiences that can help you to move to like through this level even better. But I think many times people just think that, oh my gosh, I did this and I failed again and I failed again and I'm back where I started. And I'm like, you're not. As you went through this experience, you learned something new, you developed something new. It's not like you start from the beginning or the past self. It's not the case. But I think maybe you can talk a bit more on this as well, is that I have noticed that so many people focus so much on the result. And if they don't really reach that result, or that don't reach that result as soon as they would want to, it's a fail. And it's like, especially I hear this so often, I wasted my time. It was a waste of my time if you fail. What is your perspective on this? Or maybe have you heard people talk about it?
Yeah. All right. So here's the thing. Here is the thing. The thing is that we're all on different parts of this journey. Okay. So my perspective really is meant for me and the people closest to me, because I care about them the most. You know, I want to see them win the game just as much as I do. Yeah. So I've used that term, like, you know, hey, like I have a sister going through a really hard time right now. And I'm like, you know, if you go back to him, you're going to wake up one day and be like, I wasted so many years, right? Yeah. That's me reaching. I'm reaching for the words that I can get through to her to say, hey, don't do that. Don't make that mistake. Okay. Now I know I'm doing that. I consciously know I'm using those terms purposely, because I'm doing everything I can to stop her from going back, right? From going back to the beginning of the game, because I want her to keep going on the next level with me, you know? Now, there's people who use it subconsciously or not even thinking at all. They just tell people, you're wasting your time, right? You're wasting your time. So here's the thing. Inclinations, your words are so powerful. Your words are so powerful, and they're powerful in two different ways. One, if you just use them, right? They have direction given to them. They have command behind them. And the other part is they can have positive or negative vibration to them, okay? So you can say, have a good day, right? And you can take that as, she was being snarky. She doesn't mean that, right? Or you can take it as, I think she really wants me to have a good day. She's just really tired. Does that make sense? Like there's a positive, negative there. Yeah. but you can also take it as like, ooh, that was ugly. That I didn't feel that vibration was so nasty, you know? So there's so many ways, and words are like spells. They're incantations, they're messy, they're fun, they're tools. They're tools in this game that we're playing. And if you look at something like you failed, I've reached a point in my life where I used to constantly try to build people up and be like, no, you didn't fail.
Oh,
No. I'm at a different place in my life versus where I was in my 20s and early 30s, where I was trying to constantly pick people up. I was that, no, you didn't fail, girl. No, 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 you're great. Now I'm at a place like, okay, why do you think you failed? Like, talk to me. I'm in a good place in my life where I have the time to actively listen to you, my friend.
yeah.
I want to know, why do you feel this way? Because I genuinely care about you. And then we can figure out together, like, did you fail? Did
Yeah.
you? And if you did, like, what can we do with that? Do you want to keep failing, or do you want to, like, because some people, they do want to keep failing. They just don't say it because it's like the word fail, but maybe it's a
Yeah.
different word. Maybe it's, I feel comfortable in this state of being where I'm at right
Mm-hmm.
now, because I need to sit here for a little bit and sit
Yeah.
in my poop because it's warm. Am I making sense here with this?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Even like as you were
It's
speaking, I
really
was,
like depending on the person.
yeah.
Huh?
As you were speaking, I was thinking about support. And that's something that I have noticed, that a lot of times when people support you, it's similar, like you said, oh, you didn't fail, this and that. But how much of a support that actually is? Because I might feel good in that moment hearing that, but how much does it actually help me? And there are a lot of people that, not actually, it's less people that do this, where you actually tell people what they need to hear. And most of the times it's not exactly what they want to hear. And that's something where I have seen this like kind of support, even when people have this dynamic where you put around you people that tell you things that you want to hear. And as a result, you stay where you are, because now everybody's kind of reinforcing that like dynamic. And that's something that took me a while even to learn myself, because I started to see that whenever somebody would tell me something that I actually need to hear, it would trigger me a lot. But I started to see that every trigger is a sign that there's something that I need to work on. And I don't know do you know how is it first? Is this something that you have like noticed yourself? And is there a way how would you see like what is a good support? What is like a support that actually helps a person to grow or get better?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because I have a tribe of women around me. I like to call them my Queen's Roundtable, where we've been friends for, all of us, about, more than 10 years. So some of us 25 years, and we all know each other because we've all connected each other with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love my group of women. I think at 42, and even some women in their 20s, in their 30s, don't have the tribe that I have, don't have the group of women I have. And where we constantly call each other. We're all in a group text, and we plan girls trips like every single year since the year we've met. And we've watched each other fall, we've watched each other grow, and we've watched friends actually fall out of the group. And let me tell you, that's the heartbreak right there, because we look at each other like we're our old lady soulmates.
Mm-hmm.
And when one falls out of the group, it's heartbreaking, because you know that they're going through such a hard time that they just had to distance themselves from everybody. And I've come close to that. I've come close to that. And the reason I've come close to it is because I felt unworthy of being in this circle of friends, or I've started questioning myself. Now, that's one part of it. That's if you want the enriching relationships to the end, okay? You got to build them, you got to water them. It's just like any other relationship. And you got to fight for them. And then there's the other side, where I was hanging around all of these, I'm going to just call them chickens, because I read this quote the other day and I posted on my Facebook page, and it said, if you surround yourself with chickens, you're going to cluck like a chicken. If you surround yourself with eagles, you're going to fly like an eagle. And it's true. I was hanging around all these chickens, and everything was just negative. I mean, as soon as you sat down, they just started complaining about their day. And I used to do that. I would complain about my day along with them. Bartender, hand us another drink. Let's complain about our day. But the whole time I was with them was just draining me. And I didn't realize it until I started getting into positivity, until I started saying, I want more from my life. What can I do to better myself? When you change your vibration, this is their vibration, this is your vibration together. When you start changing your vibration, you start moving up the levels, just like we were talking about in the game. You're moving up the level, right? And when you start doing that, just like in marriages, you're growing apart. You're growing apart from these relationships. And it hurts people because nobody wants to see you go, nobody wants to see each other go. And I think one of the biggest lessons of my life was realizing some of my best friends got tattoos together. We were like friends to the end. We had to let go of each other. And that was so hard. It's devastating because you grow such a bond with some of the friends in your life. But you learn over time that this is what needs to happen. It needs to happen so that way you can grow, so that way you can break some chains and keep flying with the eagles. Okay. That's evolution. That's evolving. It is the way it's supposed to be. Like the best quote is, change is inevitable. You're going to change. It's going to happen. And you think some of your most closest people you meet every single day, you've done, trips with, you think you're never going to fall apart. And then you do. And then you're just like, whoa, I can't believe that happened. And that's why I think when I talk to older women, I love talking to older women because they have so much wisdom to them. And that's the way it should be, right? The elders used to teach the younger people. And that's, it's huge in my culture, and it's cute. It's actually huge in every culture. It's just a lot of people are away from that. But I talk to older women and they'd say, oh, honey, when you are in your 40s, when you're in your 50s, when you're in your 60s, it is the best. And now I realize why it's the best. It's the best because you don't really care no more. So what? You lost a friend. You know what? Bless them, love them, send good vibes to them. And one day you might meet them again. You might go hang out with them. You might get a phone call from them, and you're going to catch up, and you're going to laugh about the stupid shit you guys fought over. Like, and that's the cool thing about it. So yeah, a good support team, the ones who have stuck with me so far are the ones who want to grow. They're the ones who want to grow because the conversations change. They change in a way where you're also talking about sex, you talk about relationships, you talk about, all of these fun and dirty things sometimes, but you also are talking about what did you do to grow? How's your business going? You're giving advice. You're not looking at them like a client. You're like, hey, look, this is what you need to do to get your podcast even bigger. Like this is, and you know what? And this is what I'm doing, because you're like, we're in a platoon. We're doing this together. We're going to win this game together. That's the support group you want to have, not the ones who are being shysty, not the ones who are drawing your energy like a vampire. Those are the ones you got to say, hey, I actually can maybe meet with you for coffee like once a month now. And then here's another big deal. If you care about that person and you want to see them grow, that vampire who's sucking your energy, you're going to tell them, you're going to get the courage to tell them, hey, I need to tell you something and lay the foundation. I'm going to tell you something, but I'm telling you this because I love you. And you might be mad at me for it, and that's okay. But this is it. And I'm telling you this, Astra, because this happened to me. A friend of mine said to me, she said, I'm going to tell you something in this. She said the exact same thing, because I love you. You complain so much and it's so negative that sometimes I don't want to meet up with you. And that hurt me so bad, because she still is one of my best friends.
Mm.
And I was like, and it really like, okay, I don't want to make her feel that way. What can I do to start changing that? And everybody, I'm going to tell her name. Everybody needs a Leah in your life.
Mhm.
Her name's Leah. She's my soul sister now. You know, we've been through so much. And yeah, like we cry when I found out I had cancer, we were crying on the phone together. You know, we love each other that much. Like, we're not willing to lose each other because we've been through so much. And
Yeah.
that's the type of friends you want. Friends will say, okay, you're annoying. Okay, you're being like this. Okay, it's a little too much. Like, you know, in a too much in a negative type of way,
Yeah.
not like, oh, you're wild and free, you know? So yeah.
That is so true. How did you even deal with hearing the news that you had a cancer? Because that's not like a small thing to have. It's not, and it's not like you still have a lot of life left in you. So what was
Mm.
that experience about? How did you deal with that? Like, I don't know how even you would describe it. What's the word you would use? Like challenge or hardship, or how did you deal with that?
Well, for my case, it's a little bit different because I found out I had cancer when I went back for my post-op surgery. I had a hysterectomy. I
Mhm.
knew I needed the hysterectomy because I had a very high rate of catching cancer or getting cancer.
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't know I had cancer until after the surgery, when I went back to get my 6-week checkup, and they said, oh, you actually did have cancer. And I
Mhm.
said, do I still have it? And they said, well, we hope not, but you know, we got to wait a while till we check you again, but it should all be gone. We should have got it
Yeah.
all. So it was this like mini roller coaster of like, oh my God, it can come back. Oh my God, I had cancer. Like, oh my God, this surgery probably saved my life, you know,
Mhm.
or bought me more time. So yeah, I cried and cried and cried for a while. I cried because it was scary and it was fearful, and I was sad that I didn't take care of it sooner. And and it also hit home because I just lost my mom in January from cancer. So it was it was scary, but it was also like, I was like, hell yeah, like, okay, I'm gonna just keep living life and keep doing me the way I actually have been.
Mhm.
So it just put me on another level.
Yeah.
I just like instantly got like to the next level with that one. Like, okay, boom, there we go. Yeah, that's the
And
way I looked at it. I didn't look at it like, mm, I wouldn't, I mean, obviously I'm a survivor, right? Because people die of cancer. Like my mom just died of cancer. I had friends who died of cancer. So finding out you had cancer and then they got it, or it's bought you more time, yes, you are a survivor. But I feel like it almost feels like surreal. It almost feels surreal for me. This is my personal feeling about it for my life. I feel like it's surreal. And there's this thought in the back of my head, like, will it come back? Because to me, to some people, when you hear the word cancer, you don't really grasp the full meaning of it until you've gone through cancer with somebody who's had it and
yeah.
either died or came close to dying, because it is absolutely horrendous and devastating to see somebody go through that. And that's what I had to do for 4 months last year, starting in November, no, October. My mom had 4 months given to live as soon as she found out she had cancer. 4 months. It takes you so fast. And you see somebody dying right in front of you every single day. And I held my mom's hand as she died. So cancer for me personally, and I know a lot of people out there have this same feeling about it, it definitely hits you in a different way versus 2 years ago. if somebody would have said like, okay, somebody has cancer, maybe that, their friend has cancer, who I didn't know, I'd be like, oh, that's so sad. Now when I hear it, I don't know who you are. I feel it.
Yeah.
It's hits you different. So, yeah.
So even that thought in your head that it might come back, I think that's something that I literally, as you were talking, I was thinking, how does that feel? Because even though you might be survivor, but there's still that like chance that it might come back. And especially because you have gone through this like experience with losing your mom, that you know how tough it can be, or how like terrible it is. How do you I don't know, how does that process happen? When does it come up? Or if it comes up, how do you deal with it when it comes up? Because that can sometimes, I assume, I haven't gone through that experience. In a way, I'm lucky with that for now, at least. But like, how does that experience look like? Because that can affect you being present as well.
It actually doesn't, as much as I think people, like my friends, think it does. It
Okay.
really doesn't. And I think it's because my mentality is very, let's have fun, let's live life, let's learn new things. So yeah, sure, it's in the back of my head, but not as loud as it can be. It could be much louder, and it could put a lot more fear in my life, but it really hasn't. I think a lot of that has to do with my mom also. My mom was my teacher of life. She was also my teacher of death. So 4 months of watching somebody slowly die, for me, was horrendous, because I saw her breaking down, her physical body breaking down, but her spirit was super big, super grand. I mean, she used to sit there. I'd walk in and she'd be like, oh my God, hey, like, let's go outside, and she could barely walk outside. But I think I seen her cry one time in 4 months, cry one time. She was unbelievable. She still went to like 2 parties. I think we took her to 2 parties in a wheelchair. Like she wasn't scared. Ask her, like, are you scared to go? And she'd say, no, I'm not scared. I'm ready. Because my brother had passed too. So she was like, I have somebody waiting for me, so I got to see this warrior spirit of hers, this grand spirit of hers. Like, it's going to happen. It's okay. Like, oh my gosh, I can only hope that when I face it, if I face it, if I face whatever it is, that's going to be my road to the next life, that I'm just as brave as she is, and not a lot of people have that type of model or teacher in their life. I got to see it firsthand. I stopped everything to be one of her caregivers, along with my sister and stepdad. So I got to see her every single day, smiling, living it up the best way she could, even if she couldn't get out of bed, smoking her weed, laughing with her friends on the phone, just wow. She wasn't the person that was like, woe is me, I'm dying, crying every day. She was like, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine without me. I taught you how to be a strong woman. Like, I'm like, oh my God, mom. Like, okay, fine. Bye. Just so we laughed all the time. Oh my God. 4 months of laughing with my mom. But so when I think of like, if my cancer was to return, how can I be like my mom? How can I celebrate life instead of like go out with a bang, go out with this like, all right, hasta life. It's been real, So that's the way I think. Like, okay, I will handle it when or if it happens, just like everything in my life. Yeah. Some bad things happen to all of us. There is nothing that's like perfect in anybody's life. Bad stuff's going to happen to you. Bad stuff's going to happen to me again. Bad stuff's going to happen to people I love. Until it does, prepare yourself. Prepare yourself in the best way possible. Prepare you mentally. I have this, I coined this phrase, what I teach people in my retreats and my workshops: protect the throne. Protect your mind, body, and spirit. That's your throne. Yes, queen. Yes, king. Okay. So how do you protect that? You nurture the warrior within. You got to train yourself for these hard times. That's what warriors do. That's what soldiers do. They train themselves for when the war comes. So that's what we have to do. We have to train ourselves when these storms come. And when you're falling apart, when the storms come, hello, like dig in deep in there, because you are built for resiliency. You are built for strength. You got this more than you think you do. You've got to train yourself. You know, when things are great, those are the moments. Train yourself now.
How do you train yourself?
Huh?
How do you train yourself?
Okay, so how do you protect your mind, body, spirit, right? Well, we know how to protect our mind a lot because it's huge. Manifestation, meditation, positive thoughts. Those are great. Those are great tools. They're all tools. Another word for tools is they're all good weapons, in protecting yourself on the battlefield or during the storms. Okay. But how do you protect your spirit? How do you grow your spirit? Whether you're spiritual, you're religious, or nature. Some people find their spirituality there, find their spirituality in nature. Body. Do you work out? Do you feed your body good stuff? Do you, what do you do? You have your coffee every day, feeling your body and putting energy in there. Do you have your teas? Do you have your green juices? Do you have your shakes? Like, what do you do to feed your body? How are you preparing your body? I like to look at it like this. If you're in the middle of war, okay, this is just an analogy. My son's in the Air Force. We've had this discussion. When you're on the battlefield, okay, and your comrades around you, this is going back to your support group, okay, your comrades around you. Do you have the strength to fight? And also, if your comrade falls, do you have the strength to carry them out to safety? Okay. Or do you stop in the middle of it and say, pause, I'm just not ready. Boom, slain. Boom, comrade slain. Like, you've got to prepare, you've got to protect your throne, because when the hard times come, you're strong for you. And if your comrade needs you, if your friend needs you, you're strong enough for them as well. Same thing you want from them. You want to know that they're growing, so that way, if something happens to you and you say, hey, I need you right now, that they can come and be with you. They, not physically, sometimes spiritually or mentally. Does that make sense? So training is just the way it's said. Work out, walk, little by little. There's a lot of people who have a lot of health problems. I got a humble taste of that when I had my surgery. I really couldn't walk. And I kept telling myself, okay, I can't walk a lot right now. Like, I'm supposed to be bedridden for a bit, right? But what can I do? What can I do? I can train my mental state. I can train my spiritual state. And that's what I did. So there's 3 parts to you that you can train. If one is not functioning, if one is not capable at this time, train the other 2, train the other 1. Do what you can from where you're at. Little tiny steps will eventually get you walking to bigger steps, will get you running up hills. Like, train. Yeah.
I love it. One question that I really wanted to ask you, because the word freedom is, I think I'm now starting to associate you with that word, because I hear when I was watching your podcast, or just learning more about you, that's something that just keeps coming up. So I'm curious, how would you define freedom?
I think it's hard to define freedom, because freedom's free, there is a story I heard in Jay Krishnamurti's book called Total Freedom many years ago. I think I just had started my journey of awakening, I'd call it, probably about 20 years ago. And I remember my friend gave me this book. Shout out to Jessica. She gave me Total Freedom. And I remember the first story I read in there, and he says, let me tell you a story. The devil and his friend are walking. I probably going to butcher this story, so don't quote me on it, but this is the sum of it. He says the devil and his friend were walking, and a piece of truth started falling from heaven. And the friend says to the devil, oh my God, let's go get that truth and destroy it before the people find it. And the devil says, no, 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 we don't have to do anything. And the friend says, what? Are you serious? Like, they're going to get it. Like, it's almost going to hit the ground. And the devil says, no, trust me, our work is already done. And the friend's just like, how could you do, like, are you serious? And the devil says, come on, come behind the rock with me, come behind the wall, like, watch, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the truth is falling to the ground, and the friend is freaking out, like, devil, you're not going to get it, you're not going to destroy it, oh my God, like, what? And the devil's telling him, trust me, I got this, So they're behind the wall watching. And as soon as the truth hits the ground, people run, grab it, capture it, lock it down. We got truth. We got truth. They hold it. They got it in this like little air bubble thing, and they got it. And it's in this box, right? And they carry it home. They're like, we got it. It's safe. It's safe with us. The friend is freaking out. Oh, I can't believe you let this happen, devil. And the devil and the friend go back, continue to walk. And the devil's just quiet, and the friend's freaking out. And the devil stops and says, my friend, my work is already done. Once the truth falls to the ground and is captured and put in a box, it no longer is truth. It no longer is free. It's my work's done. It is now in a box. It's truth in a box, which is not truth. It's not freedom. My work is done. And I remember hearing that story and reading it, and it stuck with me throughout all these years. It's not really free if it's not free. It's not really truth if it's not free. There's no bound to these beautiful things, love, truth, freedom. Like, all these things are just different meanings and different words, they become different when we start owning them, when we start putting labels on them, when we start putting a box around it. So freedom to me is it's the eagle soaring. It's the eagle soaring, it's the eagle doing what the eagle does naturally. But once we start telling the eagle what it has to do and how it has to do it, it's not free anymore, And I think that's why the spirit yearns for freedom in each and every one of us, like what's going on in Iran right now, like, the women and the missing indigenous women here in the United States, and the women who, are being told like about the abortion rights, like what we can do with our bodies, and, the women across the world who are told like what they can and can't do. The women are so powerful and so vibrant, and so there's a wild spirit that lives in all of us, that the spirit is the one saying, no, don't do this to us. Like, we are meant to be free. And the body that we wear, the body is just it's just an outfit for the spirit. The spirit's the one that wants to say, I want to be free. Stop putting more chains on me. So that's my definition of freedom, that it needs to soar. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a good question.
Yeah, because even your answer, it's so interesting, because I was even starting to think, what is it that gets in the way of freedom, or why is it hard or seemingly hard for people to live free? Because something always gets in the way of freedom. But like, what do you think? What is it that actually gets in the way of freedom?
I mean, we do, just like the story. Devil didn't have to do anything. We're doing it. We're the ones doing it. There is there's something in each one of us we're instilled with some type of control that we want. Control feels good. Control makes us feel safe. And safe is what all of us want to feel in this world, right? And I believe that when we're controlling each other, or it's the same thing that happens with your friends or with your time, with your schedules. You want some sense of control. All of us do it. We're all guilty of it in a good way and in a bad way, you know? Especially in relationships. Relationships start off so amazing. Oh my God, so in love. And then where does it go? How does it go south? It goes south because somebody's trying to control the other person. You know, oh, you didn't do what I wanted you to do. You didn't say what I wanted you to say. You didn't wear what I wanted you to wear. Okay, that there's a level of control in all of us, and that control could be out of control. And now that causes friction, right? So I believe there's a sense of control, which is a sense of safety, which is also a sense of power. And it really derives from the ego in all of us, which we all have an ego. I heard this podcast the other day. I'm going to do a shout out for it because it was actually one of the most amazing podcasts I ever heard.
Go for it.
It was Boss Babe. Boss Babe had a woman on there named Kathy Heller, I believe. And she was talking about how the ego is in all of us. And it's kind of like she gave this analogy or this story about like Batman. And I thought it was really cool because it's kind of like how we are, you know, without our ego, we wouldn't be able to triumph. We wouldn't feel this feeling of I succeeded that day, or I helped my friend, you know, she can rely on me. Because without the ego, we wouldn't know, you know, that there's resistance to us. We wouldn't know, like, okay, I won, I defeated myself today. Like you know, do you know where I'm going with this? So the ego is purposeful in a way, but when it's too much of a normal thing, I mean, look what happens. Just like fires, you light a campfire, you're going to have a really awesome time with your friends sitting around that campfire. But if that campfire gets out of control, it's disastrous. It's the same thing with the ego. It's the same thing with control. You know, it's awful. And now you see, when you see these things going on around the world, you see horrendous wars and things that are happening to our sisters all around, you know, Iran and you know, here in the United States, and sisters getting raped and kids getting raped and all these things, just horrendous things. Those are fires that are out of control. And you know, it's awful. And I think a question that many of us ask is, what can we do? What can we do? Well, let me ask you this. If it was your sister, if it was your best friend, what would you do? Would you stand there and let it happen? No, you'd raise your voice. You'd fight back. And I think that's what, you know, we need to do. Like, talk about it. Don't be scared to talk about it. Don't be scared to say, hey, I am with you. I may be way over here, but I see you, sister. I see you, you know, and I'm talking about it to my friends. I'm talking about it on my podcast. I'm talking about it. So there's again, going full circle, words are powerful. They can do something. So you just talk about it, make it heard, make it known. Yeah.
As you were talking about control and that control getting out of control, I wrote then, is there a way how you can control your control?
Well, it definitely takes an army to stop a huge fire, you know, just like it takes a lot of firefighters from all over that come in and help other firefighters, you know. So it takes a lot to stop a huge fire, but the small ones, the ones in your home, the ones in yourself, you know, you've got the ability to put out those fires, to put out the obsessiveness over control. And it takes practice. Like, think about this. Firefighters, okay? They're just not like people off the street all the time. It starts with people who are professionally trained to protect the throne, okay? You're trained to do it. You're trained to put out this fire because they know if you hit it from certain angles, it can even flare up even more.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm using these analogies because this is really what's happening in the world. If you hit it from certain angles, the fire actually gets bigger. It upsets people. It gets higher. Same thing in abusive relationships. If you do it in certain angles, fire gets worse. So you got to be strategic. You got to train. You got to know your enemy. You've got to know who you're dealing with, whether that's your self enemy, your self ego, the person in your home, the relationship that's really bad or not going well, your friends who are just, out of control. You've got to know. You got to know what you're dealing with. You got to know what tools you have that might be able to put this fire out. And if it doesn't work, change it up to try to get different results. Just like I started, like you said in the beginning, the results. The people are focused on results, and that is a good thing. You want to be focused on the results because then you have a target to hit.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is actually a really good thing. And it should be something that should be instilled in all of us because that's the way it was in ancient times. When warriors went out to hunt or hunters went out to hunt for food, there's what we're trying to get. There's the result. And the prize is so we can all get fed. So we are hardwired to think these ways because this is how it was the whole time in life. We're more civilized now. So how can we take that blueprint to work for us instead of working against us?
Yeah. This is amazing. Okay, so as we close off, to pay respect to your mom, can you give me 3 main lessons that you have learned from her about life?
3. Okay, just 3.
Well, you can give as many as you want. Just like to give at least some kind of number. You know, usually you put a number on these
I
things.
love it. I love it. Oh, my mom, she was amazing. She still is amazing. I think one of the biggest lessons that she gave me was, oh gosh. So my mom was kind of like a feminist. And I remember at a very young age, she would always say, a woman can do it just as much as a man. She was very much in that mindset. And I think it came from all the abuse that she got growing up in her home from men and from my dad, from her boyfriends, just horrendous physical, mental, and spiritual abuse. So she was always instilling, and this to my ladies, my mom, one of the greatest lessons she taught me was like, you can do it just as much as a man. So she made me feel very empowered from a young age. The second thing my mom taught me was, this is actually kind of funny. She was musically inclined, always dancing, always, parties, and not like bringing drugs in the home and alcohol in the home, but she was always throwing on music, always. And music was a very big part of our life. So we always had music on. We always cooked together and cleaned together. I didn't really cook a whole lot, but I cleaned a lot. So my mom was a single mom of 5 of us. So we always had music on when we were cleaning, and we were dancing and laughing and playing. So it was a lot of playfulness too. That was a second thing.
I saw you
Music's really
dancing
big.
a lot in some of your TikTok videos.
Oh, I have to. It's what makes me feel alive and connected
Yeah.
to myself, to my mother, to my brother, to people who have passed, to everything around me.
Yeah.
This ether of energy. I'm not a professional dancer, but that's not going to stop me. I was doing it before TikTok. I was doing it before YouTube. Like, this is how I grew up this way. So yeah, that's a big lesson. Number 2. I would say number 3, my mom was a dreamer. I listened to Zig Ziglar when I was really little. In fact, when we got in trouble at home, my mom would make us copy the dictionary. Super boring, right? But it instilled in me the love of words. I love reading. I love listening to words. And she would also make us write quotes, and we'd have to put our quotes up around the room. So at a young age, when my mom finally got away from my abusive dad and she got into self-development, she started to try to teach us. So I really feel like that seed was planted in me at a very young age to be a seeker, a dreamer for more in life, more abundance, more success, more prosperity. And my sisters are exactly the same way. My brother was exactly the same way before he took his life. So it's just like, those are three things that I felt were really important to me, because after she passed, it still instilled in me so much that I can't just sit and grieve and fall in a dark hole. I am hardwired to climb out and to keep doing.
So she built a warrior.
She built a warrior for sure. Trust me, don't get it wrong. I've been slain and I've hit the rock bottom and I've hit the underneath of the rock bottoms, you know, but I've climbed out because I can't sit there too long. It's just not in me to sit there too long.
Yeah, well, that's how I would even associate warrior, because it's not about always being successful. It's about how you deal with situations when you're not, because we all will deal with those situations, but how you deal with them. But wow, this has been fun. I can't even like, I feel like time just flew by. But I will leave all your details, everything in the down below, so that people can find your book, your podcast, which you also have podcasts, which I listen myself. It's awesome. And they can reach out to you, and if they want to continue conversation with you, you never know. But yeah, it was awesome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you too. You know, thank you. You're awesome, and you're more than awesome. You're like, I see so much empowerment in you, you know, so keep going, keep giving it out. And, you know, something can happen to me next year, you know, and you make your journey may still continue. And you might say, I remember her, you know.
Oh, I will.
So just whatever it is, girl, you keep going, and you're going to face your challenges. And when you face those challenges, raise your sword up and be like, not today, motherfucker, not today. Let's dance. Let's dance.
Oh, I love it.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.